Hi everybody, here I am, Karen, with a brand new story. I'm very excited about this book today. It's called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, and it's by a man named John Steptoe. He started drawing pictures when he was a little boy, and he started making up stories to go with them and turning them into books, and he published his first book when he was only 18 years old. And it was considered a breakthrough in Black children's literature. There had never quite been a book like it. So I'm very excited to read his other book. He has many other books, but this one today, Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, is taken from an African folk tale. And this folk tale was discovered and written down by a man way back in the 19th century. He lived in Africa, and he went around and collected these folk tales so that they wouldn't disappear. And you know what he said about them? He said, "These tales show that humans are the same everywhere." So here's our story. John Steptoe was born in Brooklyn, New York, but the book takes place in Africa. And he did a great deal of research to make everything plants and animals that live in Africa. A long time ago, in a certain place in Africa, a small village lay across a river and a half-day's journey from a city where a great king lived. A man named Mufaro lived in this village with his two daughters, who were named Manyara and Nyasha. Everyone agreed that Manyara and Nyasha were very beautiful. And here they are, the sisters, doing their chores outside the house. And they are very beautiful, aren't they? Manyara was almost always in a bad temper. She teased her sister whenever their father's back was turned, and she had been heard to say, "Someday, Nyasha, I will be queen, and you will be a servant in my household." "If that should come to pass," Nyasha responded, "I will be pleased to serve you." "But why do you say such things? You are clever and strong and beautiful. Why are you so unhappy?" And you see, here's Manyara. Ooh, and you can see she is unhappy. "Because everyone talks about how kind you are, and they praise everything you do," Manyara replied. "I'm certain that Father loves you best. But when I am a queen, everyone will know that your silly kindness is just weakness." And here's Nyasha, and she looks quite sad at her sister's words. And notice that beautiful flower that you see there that he drew. Nyasha was sad that Manyara felt this way, but she ignored her sister's words and went about her chores. Nyasha kept a small plot of land on which she grew millet, sunflowers, yams, and vegetables. She always sang as she worked, and some said it was her singing that made her crops more bountiful than anyone else's. And here she is working and singing, pouring water on the garden. It's hard to carry water. They had no hose. Look at those birds, though. One day, Nyasha noticed a small garden snake resting beneath a yam vine. "Good day, little Nyoka," she called to him. You are welcome here. You will keep away any creatures who might spoil my vegetables." She bent forward, gave the little snake a loving pat on the head, and then returned to her work. From that day on, Nyoka was always at Ninyasha's side when she tended her garden. It was said that she sang all the more sweetly when he was there. And here she is, making friends with the little garden snake in her wonderful, bountiful garden. Mufaro knew nothing of how Minyara treated Ninyasha. Ninyasha was too considerate of her father's feelings to complain, and Minyara was always careful to behave herself when Mufaro was around. Early one morning, a messenger from the city arrived. The great king wanted a wife. "The most worthy and beautiful daughters in the land are invited to appear before the king, and he will choose one to become queen," the messenger proclaimed. Mufaro called Minyara and Ninyasha to him. "It would be a great honor to have one of you chosen," he said. "Prepare yourselves to journey to the city. I will call together all our friends to make a wedding party. We will leave tomorrow as the sun rises." "But my father," Minyara said sweetly, "it would be painful for either of us to leave you, even to be wife to the king. I know Ninyasha would grieve to death if she were parted from you. I am strong. Send me to the city and let poor Ninyasha be happy here with you." Mufaro beamed with pride. "The king has asked for the most worthy and the most beautiful. No, Minyara, I cannot send you alone. Only a king can choose between two such worthy daughters. Both of you must go. And look," he announces to the village that they will go to the city, and he holds his two daughters whom he loves so much. That night, when everyone was asleep, Minyara stole quietly out of the village. She had never been in the forest at night before, and she was frightened. But her greed to be the first to appear before the king drove her on. In her hurry, she almost stumbled over a small boy who suddenly appeared, standing in the path. And here he is, standing in the night, in her path, suddenly. "Please," said the boy, "I am hungry. Will you give me something to eat?" "I have only brought enough for myself," Minyara replied. "But please," said the boy, "I am very hungry." "Out of my way, boy! Tomorrow I will become your queen. How dare you stand in my path?" After traveling for what seemed to be a great distance, Minyara came to a small clearing. There, silhouetted against the moonlight, was an old woman sitting on a large stone. The old woman spoke. "I will give you some advice, Minyara. Soon after you pass the place where two paths cross, you will see a grove of trees. They will laugh at you. You must not laugh in return. Later, you will meet a man with a head under his arm. You must be polite to him." And here is the old woman, seated in the forest, And you see the owl? Everything is dark. Just as the old woman had foretold, Manyara came to a grove of trees, and they did indeed seem to be laughing at her. I must be calm, Manyara thought. I will not be frightened. She looked at the trees and laughed out loud. I laugh at you, trees, she shouted, and she hurried on. And here she is. Try not to be afraid of the trees. She laughs at them. It was not yet dawn when Manyara heard the sound of rushing water. The river must be up ahead, she thought. The great city is just on the other side. But there, on the rise, she saw a man with his head tucked under his arm. Manyara ran past him without speaking. A queen only acknowledges those who please her, she said to herself. I will be queen, I will be queen, she chanted as she hurried on toward the city. She was not polite to him. Ninyasha woke at the first light of dawn. As she put on her finest garments, she thought how her life might be changed forever beyond this day. I'd much prefer to live here, she admitted to herself. I'd hate to leave this village and never see my father or sing to little Nyoka again. Her thoughts were interrupted by loud shouts and a commotion from the wedding party assembled outside. Manyara was missing. Everyone bustled about, searching and calling for her. When they found her footprints on the path that led to the city, they decided to go on as planned. As the wedding party moved through the forest, brightly plumed birds darted about in the cool green shadows beneath the trees. Though anxious about her sister, Ninyasha was soon filled with excitement about all there was to see. And here you are, seeing the wedding party all collected and ready to go, and they decide to go on because they believe that her sister has gone on ahead. And here you can see more of the party and the birds. They were deep in the forest when she saw the small boy standing by the side of the path. You must be hungry, she said, and handed him a yam she had brought for her lunch. The boy smiled and disappeared as he had come. Later, they were approaching the place where the two paths crossed, and the old woman appeared and silently pointed the way to the city. Ninyasha thanked her and gave her a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. The sun was high in the sky when the party came to the grove of towering trees. Their uppermost branches seemed to bow down before Ninyasha as she passed beneath them. At last, someone announced that they were near their destination. Ninyasha ran ahead and topped the rise before the others could catch up with her. She stood transfixed at her very first sight of the city. "Oh, my father," she called, "a great spirit must stand guard here. Just look at what lies before us. I never in all my life dreamed there could be anything so beautiful." And you see here, she's at the top of the rise, and below her, the beautiful city. And her father, coming up behind, she calls to him. She's so thrilled. Arm in arm, Ninyasha and her father descended the hill, crossed the river, and approached the city gate. Just as they entered through the great doors, the air was rent by piercing cries, and Manyara ran wildly out of a chamber at the center of the enclosure. When she saw Ninyasha, she fell upon her, sobbing. Look, here she is, sobbing her eyes out, very frightened. Do not go to the king, my sister. Oh, please, Father, do not let her go, she cried hysterically. There's a great monster there, a snake with 5 heads. He said that he knew all my faults and that I displeased him. He would have swallowed me alive if I had not run. Oh, my sister, please do not go inside that place. It frightened Ninyasha to see her sister so upset, but leaving her father to comfort Manyara, she bravely made her way to the chamber and opened the door. On the seat of the great chief's stool lay the little garden snake. Ninyasha laughed with relief and joy. My little friend, she exclaimed, it's such a pleasure to see you, but why are you here? I am the king, Nyoka replied. And there, before Ninyasha's eyes, the garden snake changed shape. Here she is asking, Nyoka, why are you here? I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, and the old woman to whom you made a gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka. Because I have been all of these, I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would make me very happy if you would be my wife. And here he is. He's a very handsome prince and powerful too. He is the king. And so it was that a long time ago, Nyasha agreed to be married. The king's mother and sisters took Nyasha to their house, and the wedding preparations began. The best weavers in the land laid out their finest cloth for the wedding garments. Villagers from all around were invited to the celebration, and a great feast was held. Nyasha prepared the bread for the wedding feast from millet that had been brought from her village. Mufaro proclaimed to all who would hear him that he was the happiest father in the world, for he was blessed with 2 beautiful and worthy daughters, Nyasha, the queen, and Manyara, a servant in the queen's household. And here is Nyasha being embraced by the king's mother. She's going to be completely accepted in that family. And that is so important. And here's the wedding day. You see the musicians, you see the happy couple, and you see all the people who've come from all around the land to celebrate, to have excellent food, and to be happy. They are going to have a kind queen. And look, here's an extra picture, just for fun, of these wonderful creatures that live in Africa. Well, that's quite a magical tale, isn't it? Of shape-shifting, a fable. A fable is usually a story with a moral to it, a lesson for all of us. And I guess the message here is to be kind. One wonders why someone acts the way that Manyara acted. But I've found that usually there's a reason. There's some kind of wound in that person. And to behave to them as Inyasha did, to be kind anyway, is often the best way for it to get better. Well, that's our story for today. Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters by John Steptoe. See you next time.